What is up, everybody? It's Matt Johnson. We are back with another episode of Real Estate Uncensored. This is the place where you get actionable ideas, insight, and inspiration to turn your real estate business into a life of freedom. We've got a great guest back with us today. James Colburn is here, and we are taking questions. We're also talking about some deeper things. We're going to get into, a few things that we feel like talking about. We might get into James' book a little bit. We might talk about some inner work, how to be patient with yourself, and there's some other things we might jump into. So we'll see where the episode takes us, because James is fun to riff and improvise with. James can roll with the punches. So before we bring him in, let's bring in my partner in all things real estate crime related, the junior grandmaster himself in the co-pilot seat, Greg McDaniel. Greg, what's up?
What up, Johnson? Hey, man, you are back in your box where you belong. You and I are hot off of our Australia speaking tour. I guess I'm going to call it a tour, even though there was only one stop, but it was still a tour.
There's a sightseeing tour and a speaking engagement.
Yeah, dude, talk about being blessed. And we went down there. We had a packed out standing room only event. I mean, got to meet a lot of really cool agents, a large number of our fellow speakers. We're going to get them onto our podcast, including Matt, who pulled in $5 million last year doing real estate. And when I heard him talk, it wasn't about anything new and shiny. It wasn't anything about, the new system. It was just doing your damn job on a daily basis, consistently and persistently. And I mean, we'll let him tell his story, but I mean, he's the type of guy you don't want to fuck with. Let's put it that way. In his past life, he's the guy that would come after you if you didn't quite, do what you're supposed to do. And you might have a broken leg at the end of that event. You might not. It's really depending on if you were going to pay. And that's how he got into real estate. But he'll tell the story. It was absolutely fascinating. So
Greg is talking about Matt Steinwade, who's one of Glenn Twiddle's guys. So we're going to bring Matt onto the show here. Hopefully in the next few weeks we'll get him on the podcast. So, we've got a bunch of stuff to get into with James today. So first of all, James Colburn, welcome back.
Thanks, guys, for having me out. It's always fun. You guys make real estate fun, not just a serious thing. I always say, make it a game, and then you make more money. So this is great to be on here again with you guys.
Dude, we love having you on. We were lamenting with you about your Gmail mishap, so we will walk that path together.
So if anybody doesn't hear from James for like 2 months, please explain what happened to you this morning, James.
Well, I just deleted every single saved folder, and while you were talking and Greg was talking about his Australian tour, I was realizing that, like all my tax information is now gone. So we'll just kind of, so the way I look at it is everything's perfect. We just got to figure out why. And, that's
very true. Soon we're going to get this. James, this is the IRS. We would like to speak with you about your tax problem. And you're like, I just deleted emails, man. That's all it took.
And they'll get it. I mean, they're understanding that way.
I think they are. Yeah, very, very kind, sensitive people. All right, so James, for anyone that hasn't caught one of your previous episodes, why don't you briefly remind people of what you do and where you're based at?
Well, I'm a recovering real estate agent, first of all. I mean, that's really what it comes down to. And I'll get into that in a minute, but I'm up in Seattle, Washington, begrudgingly. I actually grew up in California, Southern California, and slowly moved north. And then I had residency in 2 states, both in Oregon and California, for college. So I ended up bouncing up to Oregon, where college was more affordable, and met my wife there. And then she's from Seattle. The rest is history. But I do miss California. It's sunny today and 65. 65's cold and like wool sweater weather down there. But here it's like we're living the dream here. And I feel the life kind of coming back inside me, inside my soul. But the recovering aspect is just really the idea that, sometimes you do lose your soul a little bit with real estate. You chase after the next deal and kind of think that you never have quite arrived. And I realized that I actually make tons more money realizing that I have arrived rather than chasing after something that I don't have, that I think that once I have it, I'll become whole.
That's really interesting. First off, are you using an ATR 2100? Because that mic sure does sound damn good.
Yes, I am.
I knew I sounded excellent. I'm like, that sounds like my mic.
You heard the booming kind of the timbre of my voice as well, right?
The deep. Yeah, I'm not going to go there.
Resonant chamber.
Yeah.
The cheapest, best microphone on the market.
Yeah.
It really is. But you know, the funny thing is that what you were talking about, the fact that like not feeling, air quotes, that you have arrived. Matt and I were having a conversation about something about that off air. I was talking with, one of my team members about that today. It seems like that's kind of floating around in a lot of people's minds. And I think a lot of times when we have that mindset, when we keep ourselves locked into that like, hey, I haven't arrived, or I'm not good enough, or I'm not as good as someone else, guy or gal, it holds you back from your ultimate true potential, because you're consistently portraying yourself against the other person. You're not looking at your own successes. And what's ever going to be good enough? What's ever going to be enough? I mean, how many zeros do you need? How many deals do you need? I mean, how many hot girlfriends do you need? I mean, there's large numbers involved in all those. I was waiting for Matt to say something, but
no, we're gonna leave you. No,
I'm not touching that one.
If there's a button in this room, it's to give you a hard time about girlfriends, Greg. I mean, you kind of all of a sudden you see the little boy come out, so it's very uncomfortable.
My inner 10-year-old will never not come out. That is way too much fun.
Oh man,
don't mess with me.
Well, yeah, it's interesting, James. We were talking about this before you hopped on and before we started broadcasting, and that just like being around guys like Matt Steinway, who's pulling in 5 million GCI personally off of real estate. Obviously, it makes you step back and you start to evaluate like where you're at, and are you moving as fast to where you want to go as you can? And of course, you get around guys like that, and this is always what happens. First of all, you get around a new social circle, right? And you kind of get up to where they're at, or you're at kind of the same level. But then what happens is that gives you access to another level of a social circle. And you can do that all the way up until the point where you're Tony Robbins and you're coaching Paula Tudor Jones, and you can feel bad about not having billions in the bank. It can literally bother you, and then you can get to the point where if you didn't build the biggest skyscraper, then you've got an issue. Greg and I had the opportunity to go to a building called Q1, which is in Brisbane, and it's one of the tallest buildings in the world, and you can go to the highest point. But somebody in Dubai decided to build one that was 3 times as tall.
Yeah, 3 times as tall.
Because when you're an oil sheik, what else do? You build a giant skyscraper.
You have a dick measuring contest with skyscrapers.
With buildings.
Mine's 1 meter bigger than yours.
Exactly, and so you can keep doing this. So James, I mean, it doesn't matter what level you attain. If you let yourself feel like you've never arrived, you literally never arrive.
And so let's talk about combating that. I mean, how do you combat the feeling of never feeling you arrived? And I think something, and James, weigh in on this. Some things, maybe you just don't compete against other people, you just compete against yourself. Like I say, look, if you were to get 1% better every single day, if you were to read 1 page of a good book every single day, in 365 days, you're going to read 365 pages that have brought more knowledge to you, therefore you become better, therefore you have arrived. I mean, our worst day is someone's dream day. Someone did not wake up this morning. Someone got fired. Someone got served divorce papers today. Somebody got hit by a fucking bus today. That shit hurts. We're sitting here bitching because I didn't get enough deals. Shut the fuck up. I mean.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so I go in these reading frenzies, as you know, Greg, audiobooks, which is reading.
It is reading, Matt.
And I've been on this frenzy with Donald Miller books. I don't know if you've ever read any Donald Miller. He wrote Blue Like Jazz, and he wrote a recent book called I don't know how recent it was. It was called A Million Miles in 10,000 Years, and it's all about living a better story. And and he's a story writer, and what he realized in I think it was in 1 Million Miles in 10,000 Years was he was asked to imagine, like this person put 2 chairs on a chair on each side of them, and they said on one side is your internal self, so that's how you imagine yourself internally. That's kind of how you're showing up internally. And then on the other side, the chair on the other side is you externally. So the person asked Donald to describe how he was internally versus externally. And for Donald, he said that his external self was very kind of fragile and timid, and his internal self was very confident and alive. And I thought, my biggest struggle has been that my external self is much more put together than my internal self. And I think that's probably a lot more similar to most people in real estate agents, in real estate, as well as in the industry. But really, it's kind of like faking until you make it. You go to these listing appointments that you have no, really legitimate reason to be at in your mind. Or you show up, for example, you show up in Australia, whatever it is, and you're like, hey, this is super cool, pinch me, but how do we get here? And, no matter what, whether it be a relationship with a significant other or, in our business or whatever, it's kind of like, hold on, I'm trying to figure out how to be this person now that I'm here. And that's really the struggle that I've oftentimes had. And it's really when those two things meet. So it's really that external and the internal self starting to meet and become one, that we start to become whole. And that's the difference. It's not the like someday I'll arrive, but until then I'm not, and it's elusive, Greg, like you talked about, like, shoot, you could be Tony Robbins and working with or Matt, that you could be working with someone that's got, billions and Tony Robbins has millions or whatever, right? So it is interesting that kind of living the better story and having your internal and external self begin to meet, and that maybe not fully meet, but begin to meet. And there's this moment when you show up to that listing appointment or on a first date or in a room full of people that have way more credibility than you do in a certain area, and you show up and realize, hey, listen, I was enough the moment I was born. I was enough the moment that I made my first cry in that hospital room. There's some value and contribution in each of us. I just need to fully show up, not thinking I someday will arrive.
Yeah, and I think a lot of us spend a lot of our time always saying, well, I'll get there someday. I'll get there someday. I'll get there someday. When in reality, everyone who's hearing my voice right now, you're in the 1% income earners in the world. The large majority of this earth make, $30 a month or $300 a year or something ridiculously, stupidly low. And we take for granted all the wonderful things that are around us on a daily basis. I did my morning motivation with McDaniel show this morning. I do at 8:30 in the morning. And I talked about gratitude today, about when you change your mindset, you change the way you feel and you interpret events in your life. Like I had a deal. This was before I left for the trip, and I put all the hard work in. I did my outbound prospecting calls. I went to 2 CMA appointments. I ran my numbers. I put together a package for her, and she listed with another agent because she, air quotes, needed to get her hand held, and she was going to get a better percentage. First off, she's full of shit about the percentage bullshit. And the second thing is that it was a cop-out. So I had a choice. I could be really pissed off, bummed out, and irritated and drag that crap around with me for the rest of the day. Or what I could do is I had my 90 seconds of being frustrated, and then I said, okay, what lesson did I learn from this experience? And I learned my lesson. And now I'm going to put it into my future listing appointments of how am I going to combat, needing a handheld. Perfect example. I'm going to have Eileen call every listing appointment 30 minutes after I leave. I'm going to have a candy dropped off if I didn't bring one to them. And I'm going to send them a thank you letter with a send-out cards, 2 days after I show up. I'm going to let them know I'm going to stand next to them the entire time. Now, was that on me? Yes, it was partly on me for not doing a good enough job on the follow-up. And yes, I screw up just like the rest of you guys. And so but I didn't let it affect me. I took it as a learning opportunity. So am I going to ever get to where I want to be? Am I ever going to be as good as I want to be? No, because I'm always going to be chasing my future self, my next level of me ahead of where I currently am. And if you guys aren't chasing that next level of self, that better version of you, then I really pity you. Because if you've already reached your pinnacle, it's like peaking in high school. I mean, I know a lot of those guys.
The worst is reaching a pinnacle. I mean, you know how that is. It's kind of like going and buying the dream car, and then what?
Yeah,
I mean,
and
honestly, and then what? Sell it. Because you need it. There's a chase missing then. You've been looking on Craigslist for 4 years for the perfect Porsche. You finally find it. That's the worst day.
Well, Greg, I'll be taking the keys to your SRT. I appreciate it.
I will cut your heart out with a spoon, Johnson. You're not touching my car. My dead body.
I forget where I read it, but the issue really is that kind of rejection piece where you could you had the 90-second funeral, which I love. 90-second funeral. Everything's perfect. It's your job to figure out why. There's a growth opportunity there. One door closed, two open. You just have to open your eyes to the two doors opening. In real estate, when one door closes, I'm like, sweet, now I'm going to get two listings. You know what I mean? Like, honestly, you just look at it that way. In fact, sometimes we got to slam the door shut on a listing or working with a buyer because we want two doors to open. I don't know where I heard it, but and I've used it in a couple trainings. The idea of if there was a perfect peach, ripe, wonderful, perfect peach sitting on the counter, if you mentioned that to a room of people, there would be a few people that raise their hands saying, no, thank you, I do not want that peach. There's going to be a larger group of people that want to eat that peach because it's perfectly ripe. I mean, it's just ready to roll. And there's a few that just have no interest in peaches. You can replace peach with grapes or with whatever, but the point is we are not going to appeal to every single person. There are reasons beyond us why they're not going to work with us, and the narcissism in our industry is so great that there's oftentimes no room to grow. And so it's like, get out of your own way. One of the worst parts of this business, and here, this is a field note for the day. One of the worst parts and the best parts of this business is there's no ceiling to what you can make. The worst part of it is there's no ceiling to what you can make, and the reason why is you put a ceiling in place. We put a ceiling in place. So the difference between the gentleman you met out in Australia and a brand new agent is they've learned how to lift the ceiling. No one can take the ceiling completely off. We need a box around us. But they've learned how to lift it. Tony Robbins has lifted it higher than others. You've lifted it higher than others, right? And so, I mean, there was a day when you thought there's no way I could speak and there's no way I'd live stream my cold calls, right? And now you're live streaming your cold calls and speaking. There's a day when all of us kind of elevate to the next level, and that's because we lifted it.
Yeah, we really did. It's just about accepting our reality. And a lot of times people accept their reality in a negative way because they're like a beaten dog. They don't keep fighting. They're like, that's it, fuck it, I'm done. When in reality, if you just keep fighting and keep pushing, there's nothing that can ever stop you. If you had an experience like I did and I lost out on a listing for a dumbass reason, well, lick your wounds, get back up, Buttercup, and put your big girl panties on and get back out there. I mean, like you said, James, you're not going to appeal to everybody. And this lady, dude, she was going to suck the life out of me. I mean, talk about being needy. I'm not that type of a person. I don't handhold well. I like pushing the direction, go that way, let's walk this path together, but I'm not going to drag you and comfort you and pat you on the head and tell you everything's going to be okay. I'd rather shoot myself. So, in essence, another way to look at things like this is like, what lesson did I learn and what was I protected from? There are countless times, like I was going to get I always tell the stories that I don't get the listings. It sounds like I'm a complete utter failure over here. But I was going to get 3 listings in the Berkeley, Oakland area. And they're brand new construction. I had a listener of the show hit me up. We were going to co-list them together. And the builders ultimately went with another agent. And I was I got to tell you, I was pretty upset. I was pretty frustrated. I'm like, what the fuck, dude? Like, I presented a good package. This is what's going to get to sell them, the whole 9 yards. I talked to that agent 2 months ago at my networking event. I'm like, how'd the deals go? He's like, dude, it's such a blessing you weren't involved. We've been in litigation ever since we started selling them. Wow. And I'm like, whew, sidestepped a landmine on that one. Yeah. So don't let things get you down. Keep moving forward. The universe will work out just the way it needs to for your betterment. You're exactly where you need to be at this very second in life is perfect for where your what path you're walking. And as soon as you get that and you understand that and you see that, all of a sudden, all these little things that are bothering us, poof, they go away.
And by the way, for the people that are watching that are saying, well, yeah, but how about really bad things like health issues or, where, whatever, right? Where it's not all just like, oh, I didn't get a deal or I didn't get to work with a builder account. And I would say that, obviously easier said than done. But there's growth opportunities that oftentimes we figure out years down the road. I mean, looking back, you see someone that lost a spouse, an untimely death, and they look back and they see just all that, like kind of the grateful opportunities that were along there. When you look back, the buoys line up, right, on the water, whereas when you were going through it, you were zigzagging through the water. And I would just say that the point is that time kind of cures that. You just have to leave the space in there. This business is brutal from the standpoint that you would think that we have to kind of mind will ourselves through it. And initially, a lot of people do just kind of, it's through like sheer willpower and strength, they muscle through kind of all the lessons that come with it. But interestingly enough, the aspect that oftentimes is missing is more like the faith aspect related to provision in our life and seeing the grateful opportunities in front of us and really just letting go and that surrender. And that's what I've been trying to speak about, and that's what I wrote about, was that idea of like the surrender to not having all the answers, but open, I guess, to receiving the answers, asking the big questions beyond ourselves that we don't have answers to, like, and then listening and then waiting expectantly for those answers that come from others in our life or come through our creative subconscious or even the miraculous.
So one of the things that I do every day, I talk about this very, very vocally, is I do EFT tapping or meridian tapping every morning. The guy named Brad Yates on YouTube, Yates, skinny white dude with black glasses. And I do one called Having an Amazing Day. That's the one I consistently do. And it's amazing, and James, it's because when I put my intention, like you said, towards the universe or the miraculous or whatever you want to call it, when I do my EFT energy releasing ritual in the morning, I expectantly look to have an amazing day. And guess what? An amazing day shows up. Cool random things take place. And so that's what
I mean, let me piggyback off that real quick, Greg. So one of the things, and with my personality type, I struggle with that. I struggled with it for years. So one of the things that I started doing just here over the last couple of months is I wake up in the morning and I say, today is going to be a good day because you get what you focus on, and I'm going to focus on the good.
Mm-hmm. 100%.
So that was one of the missing pieces for me that connected the real and like grounded positive thinking in something real for me. Was realizing it, like the realization that, I'm creating the stories, right? So that, like, hey, this is life. Like, for some reason, I think when I was a kid, I got it into my head that at some point, like, the goal was to get to a point where everything in your life is just, like, building and progressing forward. And then, you get in your 20s, at least I did, and I got into my 20s and realized that was not happening, right? And then you get into 30s, and I'm like, oh, wait a minute, this is it. This is life, and the people that are happy are the ones that realize that, figured that out, and instead of going, hey, this was good, this was good, this was good, but this thing over here wasn't quite what I was looking for, and then zeroing in on that thing that wasn't quite right. That's what I used to do. The people that are the happiest accept that life is the way it is, and that the stories they tell themselves about it is what determines whether they're actually happy about it. And I've seen this very viscerally working every day with my mentor Frank for a while, because I would marvel at the end of the day when he would unilaterally declare, this was an awesome day. I'm like, there was like 5 things on our to-do list we didn't get to. He's like, yeah, but we got to these 2 things, and that's going to push the business forward, and that's good enough. Like, hey, we got this stuff done, we achieved, we came, we saw, we conquered, let's go home and relax. And I'm like, holy cow, I've been doing it wrong for 35 years. So anyway, that's how I start my day now.
Yeah,
by knowing.
It's determined by which way the corners of your mouth are pointing, really, when you think about it. I mean, it's, it is interesting how little things and decisions that we make, and that's why morning ritual is so important. Mm-hmm. And then even beyond that, as you know, an evening ritual to set yourself up for the morning. And then just even our conversations, it's really about the next conversation that we're going to have. Not, we talk about, just be in connection. No, as a real estate agent, it's about your next conversation. And so what's interesting about that is that expectant looking for the next conversation is, in my belief, the single most effective way to build your business.
So let's talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, go a little bit deeper on that.
Well, I mean, we've all heard, I mentioned on this show before that one of the ways that I built my business is literally just to make a rule that if I think of someone, I'll call them. Not if I think of someone, I'll write it down and call them at the end of the day after my inspection's done and I've made my calls or whatever. But when I think of someone, I call them and have the script ready where basically, hey, I'm running into a meeting. I'd love to get together with you. It's been far too long. I've got some time next week. Let me buy you coffee, lunch, dinner, whatever, right? And literally doing that as it happens, not saying, hey, listen, I'm going to be in contact with someone in my sphere 3 times a day, but instead just making the rule, hey, I'm a big kid. Those who come to my mind, there's a reason why. I don't believe in coincidences, and I'm going to think, when I think of someone, I'm going to call them. Okay, well, that's been my rule. But what's interesting is the better put, it's more like I'm all about my next conversation. So I was at a restaurant in Yakima, Washington. Such a great dinner. Yeah, I mean, it really was, guys. But I was sitting there, and I was alone because I was at a training event. I'm sitting there at the end of a long day, and this person next to me asked what I ordered, and we started talking, and there was this incredible connection, and she was from Seattle as well, and we ended up, so we started talking about real estate and that her parents want to sell, blah, 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 right? So there's this next conversation, but you guys know that you've been in a coffee shop, you've been, on the plane, you've been in an environment where you're like, please, no one talk to me, please. I mean, you're literally pissed when someone like says, everything okay here? Like the waitress comes to your table or, waiter comes to your table and says, is everything okay? And you're like, can you stop it? Or you have to take your headphone out of your ear and you're like pissed that you, I can't believe you're interrupting my mojo, right? But if you're about the next, if you're about the next conversation, right, then that conversation trumps these.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very much so. And now I know why Matt is always grimacing at me whenever I talk to him, because he's thinking, gosh damn it, why are you interrupting my thought pattern, Greg?
Well, he's definitely transparent. He grimaces when he doesn't agree or when he knows he's got to get in a word in edgewise, especially with you and I, Greg.
Oh, my God. Yes, that's true. So Gail has a great comment. She says, Promptings, the book by Cody Bateman. James, you might like that book. I would 100% agree. I am about 80% of the way through it. Yeah, it really is. And I love the message of the book. I mean, whether or not you're a religious person or not, you might get the undertones of the word promptings. But even if you don't, if you believe that it's just, universe, whatever, that delivers those promptings, James, I love that you have made it a point to act on them, and I'm working on incorporating that into my life too, because I have always believed in that and then did not do what I needed to do to act on it. I was that guy that would think of somebody and go, oh, great, that's awesome. I'll call them tomorrow, or I'll call them, whatever. My parents are a great example. This just happened last night. So we got back from Australia. I hadn't really talked to my parents while I was there or anything like that, and I don't talk to them as much as I should in general. So, Mom, if you're watching this, I'm sorry. But anyway, so I called them out of the blue last night, right? And I could tell something was off. Well, it turns out my grandmother, my only remaining grandparent, is in the hospital right now. It's not looking so hot. So obviously had a chance to talk to my parents about that. And, of course, I get off the phone, and then the text comes through, hey, your grandma's in the hospital. So what? Like they sent that like 5 days ago. They're sitting there wondering, why isn't Matt replying? I didn't even know they sent the text. All I did is I got a prompting to call them on Sunday, and I acted on that prompting and called them, and obviously had an important conversation that needed to be had. So yeah, I mean those kinds of things I think happen way more than we probably give it credit, and we need to start giving that credit.
So well, it's interesting when you do give the credit. Then all of a sudden you start responding to that, and then you start seeing the magic happen.
Yeah.
So it's interesting with that, same thing with grandparents and stuff. Obviously, you guys all know my grandmother died about a month and a half ago. And Gail she's the one that introduced me to send out cards, right? And so here's Gail, my BFF.
She sent you a BFF card.
Yeah, BFF card. See, you're in it too.
Oh, that's awesome. I'm in it. Oh, awesome.
Yeah. He's sending us a thank you to being on the show. But anyways, the point is that I'd never sent the 8.5 by 11, the big card, but I had a prompting to send one to my mom because just with a picture of her and her mom, her parents, her brothers, the whole thing. She literally got it and started crying, and it landed on a Monday. And she and my dad had just spent the entire weekend down with my grandfather, who is now alone on his 95-acre ranch. I mean, he had to live in help, though. But, I mean, she's like, dude, you had no idea how much this meant to me and how impactful it was to get it today after spending a weekend with her father and talking about her mother and all of this stuff. So don't ever discount those promptings, ever.
Yep.
I mean, imagine if you're single. Or if you had the prompting to go talk to that hot guy or that hot girl, but you didn't do it, or to pick up the phone and call an ex or something like that when it wasn't a bad breakup, naturally.
That's a very unusual example to give, Greg.
Well, I talked to the majority of my exes. I mean, we're still all very good relationships. But my point is, like, I actually called one of my exes a couple of weeks ago, about a month and a half ago. She had made a comment on Facebook, and I said, hey, Stevie, you got 5 minutes to talk. And I had 30 minutes to go into the city, so we talked, and I basically slapped her verbally for not to stop talking negative about herself, and I wanted to figure out what was going on. She hit me back a couple of days later going, I can't believe how you don't understand how powerful that conversation was. Thank you for always being a friend. It can be something very small like that, or it could be a profound business opportunity. Matt and I have a really big business opportunity that we're working on right now, and a lot of it was done because we went down to Australia and the events that led up to it. And, if we didn't listen to our promptings, if we didn't listen to our intuition to do certain things, then this opportunity might not have shown up. But it is a massive, 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 massive opportunity for us, and it's because we listened to our guts. So how many times have you guys missed out on deals? How many times have you missed out on relationships, both with a romantic and personal or family or whatever it is? I think it's the most powerful thing on earth, and it's satisfying. James, wouldn't you and Matt, wouldn't you guys both agree that, like, listening to these intuitions and making that call, writing that letter, sending that email, stopping on by, whatever it is, like, once you do it, you're like, there's a reason for that. I felt good about that. Like, it was just something that just feels right to listen to them, and not to listen and feel dirty. You just feel like, ugh,
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's something about that, just opening yourself up to why you had that prompting, and having no agenda.
Yeah, and that's the point. And the important part about that. I mean, they have no agenda. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Don't go into it for yourself. Matt, you didn't call your parents on Sunday to get something out of it. You just called to say hi, right? Yeah. And James, your book to kind of re-succeed. You're talking about how to get yourself prepped, in the evening for the morning. So how could someone start to identify these promptings, and how can they prime their brain in the evenings to really be powerful in the mornings?
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't have all the answers, but what I do know is that by not having all the answers, you and opening yourself up to maybe asking 3 what I call great questions right before you go to sleep, recording them on what I use as a 3x5 card, but you could use anything, and then not actually answering the questions, which is what most highly successful achievers do, is they ask questions that they immediately start going to work on trying to answer or engineer an answer. But instead, just saying, nope, that's not for me. I'm just going to ask some questions and open myself up to it, whether it be how to get a challenging listing sold, have to get creative on that, or get the seller to reduce their price to an appropriate level, or whether it be to take your business to the next level, or to expand your influence. I mean, for example, I always say that at one point each of us will be in a struggle because we realize that we're playing a small game. I mean, at one point it was a big game, but it became a small game. So what I say is that, in our lives, we ask ourselves, what's the small game in my life that originally was a big game but has become small that I need to take another close look at and decide if my time should be spent there? What is that small game? And I mean, there's areas in our life that, I mean, it was a big game at one point, now it's a small game. Here's an example.
I was going to say, give me an example on that.
Well, I mean, I got to be honest with you. There's people in real estate shouldn't be in real estate anymore because it's a small game. I mean, it's just damn comfortable. Mm-hmm. I mean, I make too much money. How am I going to make more? It's like, yeah, dude, but you've proven that you're a rock star in real estate, right? What's the next thing? Now, it doesn't mean you can't have a team, but it means you might build yourself out of direct production of real estate. You might grow your team to a point where you can start doing and really contributing to the lives of others and helping others be as successful as you have been. What's the big game? And I mean, I would say asking that big game question. I mean, I know a loan officer. He and I went to a Tony Robbins event, my first only, and gosh, it was an awesome time and a life changer. It's one reason why I finally got done with the book is that I went to that event. But I went with a loan officer, and he had just gone back to a new company after being a manager, a high-level manager of a large firm. He had went back to direct production. And I said, how many times do you have to go back to direct production and become like number one in the company, right? To know that you've proven you can do this in 12 short months, right? He said, I don't know, I just got to do this one more time. So we went out to happy hour a couple of weeks ago, and I said, and he said, I'm going to Hawaii President's Club, I'm, whatever, this number this in the company, the top, 10 in the entire company. And it's a huge company. And I said, so again, you've proven you can do this. Like, you don't need to prove it anymore, right? I think it's a small game now. Now, I'm not saying that being great at something and getting paid well for it is not worthy of your attention. However, just because you're great at something, just because you're paid well for it, does not mean that it's why you're here on earth. Just because, again, if you're a great PTA president, or you're a great volunteer, or you're a great mom or dad, doesn't mean that that's the only reason why you're placed here on earth. You're here for larger. Now, it doesn't mean it means be impatient, but it doesn't mean be discontent. It means be open to the idea that there's more for you. There's a larger game out there for you. That it's not just, well, I got to do this. It's like I hate, the people I meet that hate their job the most are accountants. I'm great at numbers, but I freaking hate it. Right? Like, but I got to do this. I mean, what else am I going to do? It's like numbers people are like, well, I can't be like personable with people. I just have to like do numbers for the next, 15 years and then I can retire. And it's like, no, you were placed here on earth for larger. So I'm not saying everyone needs to check out of real estate. I'm just saying it's valuable to be asking those big questions and open yourself up to it. So maybe you're a real estate agent, but then a rock star board chair of a nonprofit that does some incredible work in your area. You were here, you were placed here. Become more whole, is what I'm saying. And as you become more whole, right, your business grows, your influence grows. But don't just like, I got to do it because how can I get paid more elsewhere kind of deal.
Well,
I like that idea.
One of the things that I want to help with, because that's what I've come to the conclusion. I came to the conclusion years ago when I was a musician. I ran across a guy who had made his money in the corporate world, which gave him the opportunity to then, build his own home studio, and he was able to record and produce music part-time, still ran his business and still made a very good living and provided for his family and had a great house and a great life and yada yada, but was able to do the things that he wanted to do in music because he was able to build and then systematize his business to the point where it didn't take all of his time. And that's, I think, something that is an interesting opportunity that has opened up, is the ability to, look, if you're a rock star in real estate, you can then start to systematically remove yourself from certain areas of the business so it doesn't take all your time, and you can focus on being a rock star in other areas, whereas the chair of that nonprofit or a music career, if that's what you want to do. In Greg's case, I mean, you being a rock star in real estate has allowed you the opportunity to now focus more on recruiting than on your own personal production. That's the bigger game for you. And Greg, you and I have talked about that a lot over the last couple of years, of just when you would make that transition, because for you, real estate, the day in, day out, especially of listings and stuff like that has become the small game for you.
Yeah, it has been. I mean, because we can, like I was talking to Eileen today about it, how we're going to put the different systems into action and, generate more business for us. But like you said, that's the smaller game at this time. And agents that are just getting into the game, into real estate, then listings and buyers and showings and appointments, that's your big game. Now it's a small one for me, and recruiting for EXP and for my national team and soon to be international team. That's the big play. That's the long tail, big both payout, but financially, but also payout in giving back to the world. I talked about it on my morning motivation show this morning about gratitude, like I said earlier in the show, and how that my goal is in 5 years or less when I turn 44 years old, which is actually really interesting, the number 44. Matt, you get a kick out of it. It all has to do with angels and archangels and all kinds of crazy weird shit. But like 44 is my favorite number, and when I turn 44, I will have achieved this. My exit for when I get off the freeway is 44. 44 is in my email. It's really weird. But the thing is that I will have achieved a big goal of putting 25,000 people onto my team. Now, that's going to pay an epic shit ton of money, But there's 25,000 plus people that, our team has positively impacted, and we've helped them grow their finances, grow their time they can spend with their families. We've done something good for humanity times 25,000. And that right there is the part that really gets me jacked up. Because how cool, there's literally a small country out there that you positively impacted for the betterment. I mean, that just gets me going. And that's why I think people are joining our team so quickly, is because they see the energy behind what we're building. And the positivity, and the mindset, and working as a unit, as a team, as a cohesive group, expanding together, working together. It's amazing to watch this take place. So that's one thing I'm really
the idea of asking that question, James, before you go to sleep. Just what is the little game that used to be a big game that I need to take another look at? It's a great question.
Well, Johnson, what would it be for you right now?
That was good, Greg.
Oh man, Greg, you're killing me.
There's the bus.
Well,
I just tossed you under.
I am shifting away from done-for-you services for coaches, speakers, consultants. I already eliminated the small game of serving like agents or loan officers or anybody who wanted to start like a local podcast. Like I don't do that. So the shifting from the smaller game to the bigger game is the course that I'm putting together on how to start and actually run and execute a podcast at a very high level, month after month, week after week for years. So taking all the stuff that I've learned from running our podcast and running the freaking 10 other podcasts that we run at Pursuing Results, and putting all of that into a program that will actually get somebody off the ground, but more importantly, once they've actually launched, we'll give them the systems to turn everything over to a marketing assistant who can actually execute it and freaking produce a podcast at a high level for months on end. So that involved a whole shifting away from doing what I'm very good at, which is running done-for-you services, into putting together and selling a course, which is all unproven, unknown territory for me. So that was my shift from small to a bigger game, because that will allow me to serve way more people than I could ever serve by doing all the work for them.
Interesting. And Wyatt, you're a dick, by the way.
Oh my God! Wow.
What was that?
Wyatt says you must have been a smoker in a past life, Greg. You age horribly. You're not 44 already.
Guy.
Man alive, Wyatt, busting your chops. Good Lord.
It's just
All
too
right, well,
forward.
speaking of that, Wyatt has a good question. I want to end off with a couple of questions here. Before we do, James, how do people connect with you and get the book?
You can go to Amazon, honestly. I mean, there's free chapters on my website, but I'd rather you just buy a book. So never mind that. I mean, if you get three free chapters, how is that valuable, right? Like, just go to Amazon.com and get it in all forms: audio, Kindle, or paperback. Best $20 you'll ever spend.
It is a really good book.
But you guys can go to James Colburn, C-O-L-B as in boy, U-R-N.net. That's around there. Download a PDF of the 5-minute epic evening ritual. And you can check that out if you'd like. But honestly, this isn't about book sales. It's more about its impact and influence. You get to that point where, your food, I jokingly call it the Maslow hierarchy of needs, which is like food and lodging, is covered, right? Like I got my lodging. It's handled. I've got my food. Right. It's handled. So now it's about like impact and influence. When I hear that someone's light has gone on in their life, right? Like if 3 years from now someone says, you know what, I asked what the big game question. I thought I was playing a big game, but it had become a small game without me even knowing. I asked that big game question, and I started making, and because it's not monumental shifts overnight. I mean, yeah, you can do that, but you can just literally just open yourself up to a big game again, and little by little, like when I hear that light's gone on and that 2-3 years from now, because I responded to prompting on this show and started talking about big game, right? Not because it's on a list of stuff that I talk about typically. I think that's fun stuff. That's what I want to be a part of, right? The rest will be handled. My biggest complaint is I have exactly what I need, not more, not less, right? And what I realize is I should be pinching myself when I have exactly what I need, not more, not less. Really?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, or and now I'm not saying don't aspire for more, and I definitely do, but also realize you're provided for. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want for clean water. Like, a hot shower, unless my kids use all the hot water, which is often. It's pretty much there. My son's biggest complaint here in the Northwest is because I didn't have a remote on the third garage. He was like, Dad, I mean, the ice on the windows, this is brutal. And I'm like, first world problem, kid. I mean, like, are you serious? Like, you're driving a Land Cruiser. Like, what? And then I put in a third garage door remote, right? Like, it's like, it's got a point. And I got to sell the house someday, right? So you really need 3 remotes on this thing. You know what I mean? So what's a first world problem in your life that you're sitting around going, oh my gosh, I have, like, I quit sugar for a month. Actually, I'm going on 2 months. First of all, you lose a bunch of weight just by not even thinking, and I quit it all. Like, I was hardcore, like, because I'm all or none James, so it was like even fruit, like all of it, right? Yeah. And that whole Dr. Gunderson diet evolution idea of just like we're just way too much sugar in our body, right? And I'm not talking about like sweet tarts. I'm talking about like bread that becomes sugar and all that, right? Oh, yeah. So I quit sugar, literally for a month. And my biggest complaint with my friends is I can eat all the protein and all the veggies I want, but not bread. And I'm like, there's people in other countries like, oh my gosh, are you serious? You get as much protein as you want and as much veggies, fresh, clean veggies as you want, but you can't have bread and a bowl of ice cream? It kind of keeps it in perspective, right?
That's right.
I will cut out all sugar in my life, but I'm not cutting out booze. So we figure out a nice
red wine. It's a different kind of sugar. 100% agree with that. Thank God we're rationalizing. Totally good. Like fermented sugar, you're in. But 2 large 14-ounce glasses. Only.
Large 14-ounce glasses.
Heavy pour,
more 40 ounces.
And by the way, if you can only have 2 glasses, then it's heavy pour time.
That's right.
Here we go, Bubby. I'll have 2 glasses of this, please. Yes, sir.
A Yeti of wine. Oh my God! All right,
please.
Let's finish off with this. I want to get to Wyatt's question here. This is an interesting one. So he got an objection the other day. Husband listed his home due to his wife's health issues, but then she recovered. And so he's not looking to sell till end of next year. So the question is, he's wondering, should he have pressed harder, or do you just kind of send them a card with a follow-up and offering to keep in touch and essentially celebrating her recovery? So the question is really, the circumstances under which he listed the property changed, and there's not a lot of urgency there. So how do you create or how do you follow up with that just to stay in touch and make sure that you're there when they are ready?
You send arsenic in the letter. Hasten that sale. I'm kidding. I joke.
Wow.
I'm going to let James go first on that one, since I've already decided to mentally harm the poor lady.
I'd rather watch you with a blazer over a T-shirt.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God, we got a podcast.
Oh no, it's much worse than that. It was he hopped on, and I said, Greg, do you have a blazer? And he's like
one moment.
Yeah, exactly. He runs in the back of the rest.
Greg, you're the grandmaster or junior grandmaster, please.
Oh yeah, and I get ridiculed for not my lackadaisical dress, but you know what? You like the guy.
You guys aren't
who
giving
wears
me a hard
suit.
time. I don't workout clothes. I mean, I get it, but I'm a
we
guest. You can't
We're only
slam
seeing you from the
guests.
neck up. So
Oh no, I'm just a torso, literally.
Yeah.
You guys don't know that about me. I don't know if you guys, literally just a torso. Like it's called. You got to ask a big game when you're just a torso. Like what's a big weight? Like, sorry, torso only real estate agents
Human being.
that are listening. Yes.
Oh my God, you guys crack me up.
I don't even have arms. This is like.
Showering's very awkward.
I'm on a Lazy Susan actually.
Just spinning. Oh, God,
that's awesome.
All right,
good,
back to you.
good that we don't have fun on this show.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I don't know what you're talking about.
student
Making real
journey.
estate fun? That doesn't sound like the Greg and Matt I know.
Yeah, whatever. Oh my God. Okay, let's go. Let's do this. James, give them one more shout out where they can reach you, and then I will let them know where they can reach me.
Well, no, you got to answer the guy's question, man.
Ah, shit. What was it? I totally forgot. That's why I totally just went around it.
You know what? We can answer it offline, but
boy.
and also seriously, if someone knows how to undelete deleted Gmails, please.
That's right. If anybody is
Because
listening within the sound
the
of our
level
voice.
of what I'm realizing I've deleted is, I mean, I was feeling drips of sweat roll down my torso. But you can reach me at jamescolburn.net. You can reach me on Facebook. Please friend me. It'll tell me that people actually watch the show if you friend me. I like some sort of barometer to know if it's worth it. And honestly, guys, this has been one of our deeper shows, right? Like sometimes we just fixate on like one of your past girlfriends and throw in, don't forget to, send a mailing out or something. But this has been valuable, and I think that there's real, at the heart of it is that we want to go deeper as real estate agents and into the real purpose behind. We all want a purpose. We all want significance. But what does that mean? Does that mean just selling another house or making another $100,000? No, it doesn't. It can't. In fact, if it's just about money and if there's no fulfillment, we're wasting our time.
Mm-hmm.
I'd love
100%.
to be a part of that conversation.
Yeah. Well, join our EXP team and we can all do it together. Ding! Sales pitch. Yeah. Okay, guys, go on my screen right here. It says bookmcdaniel.com. Go to that page and book 30 minutes with me, guys. If you guys want to learn about what we're doing with EXP, with growing our national brand, going to be an international brand. I'm going to put on 500 people personally. I'm going to put onto my team, and then I'm done. I'm not going to recruit anymore for my team. Then I'm going to recruit for you, and I want to help you put at least 50 people on each one of your teams. That will help you guys build a passive income for the time when you don't want to sell that damn house, or you don't want to work with one more buyer in your lifetime. You can have people on your team that are working, and you can make passive income as you get over that hump. About every 7 years, we about want to commit homicide, because that's when you come to a breaking point. About every 7 years, then you go take a break or you do something different, and then you get back into the industry. But work with us with EXP, join our team, and we will help you guys create wealth, not just a paycheck. Okay, so go to bookmcdaniel.com and book 30 minutes with me, and we'll get to hang out and see if it's going to be a right fit for you.
So I just booked. What are we doing? Are we just going to hang out, or do we talk? Do we talk about? Are you going to coach me? What happens to me?
You actually did just book.
And so let's do this thing tomorrow at 12:30.
Can we please title the calendar appointment "Talk with Torso"?
No, yeah. Let's do it live.
Oh my God!
You actually
tomorrow.
did.
You actually did book. I was going to call you out on your bullshit. I'm like, you didn't book, you liar. I'm like, no, calendar, James Colburn. Oh my God!
I love Calendly. That's a
Calendly.
great.
Such a fun thing. But yeah, guys, follow James's lead. See, only one prompting, and he's evil ninja over there with his meat sticks, and he got 30 minutes like that. Boom, done. So easy.
Yeah, free 30 minutes. Can't get better.
Doesn't get any better than that, baby.
Major bond sesh.
Oh my God, we're retards.
Let's go another hour. Let's do it. Doing another hour right now.
Nope, I'm hungry.
Start
Let's
it up,
eat.
Nat. Start it up.
Absolutely not. Let's shut it down. Shut it down.
Oh man, guys, go
You
there,
guys are
Matt.
ridiculous.
Matt,
Yes.
what can you do? How can people reach you? I can give them your cell phone number if you want to talk to people.
I'll take a hard pass on that. They can go to bookjohnson.com, and if you are, the reason to book a call with me is, look, if you've heard about somebody on the show, whether it's a coach or somebody that has a program or a product or something that they've mentioned, and you're looking to see what is the best next step for you, whether it's to invest in that program, invest in that coach, or if you just want to talk about podcasting because you're thinking about starting one, whatever the case is, go grab a time with me at bookjohnson.com. I'm happy to just share what I've learned and my experience, and if you're looking towards a specific program or a coach, I can give you my 2 cents on it, give you some strategic guidance on whether I think you'll resonate with that person or whether that program is the right step for you at this point, and then we can go from there, and hopefully that will give you the information that you need to take the next step forward in your career. So that is bookjohnson.com. And then for the show, make sure to subscribe, YouTube, iTunes, Stitcher, for all the wonderful people that listen on audio or watch on video. Doesn't matter. We've got an option for you for any one. And then briefly, we will thank you for subscribing and sharing and rating and reviewing the show.
Remember, 5-star ratings only. Anyway, guys, Matt, what are we going to do to this show now?
Put a bow on it, Greg.
Okay, let's put a pretty pink bow on it, Johnson. All right, guys. Hey, I love you to pieces. Thank you for watching. Thank you for supporting. Thank you for sharing. If this is something that you think a friend or team member or someone should hear, please give them this recording. Share follow me on Facebook. They can see my other shows. My morning motivation at 8:30 a.m. Pacific, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, the podcast, and then Monday through Thursday at 4:30 Pacific is the live calling sessions. So, come hang out, have fun. Let's answer some questions together. I love you guys. Matt loves you guys, even though he doesn't say it. James loves you. He's got a heart of gold. Bing. And until next time, guys, peace out, ninjas. We go.